Hi, today we are going to look at opportunity, which is something that the so-called hustler movement in Kenya has brought to the fore. We need a discussion on how certain people within society are more privileged than others. And that privilege has been a part of how Kenyans have been governed. The founding president and his government took the colonial state and transformed it into an independent one, but the opportunities for people to do better for themselves and their families and the country at large were largely not addressed, and that situation has continued to this very day. And part of the problem with our governance here in Kenya has been that we have not had the opportunities as citizens to work for ourselves and do things for ourselves. What do I mean by opportunities? Here I'm talking about things, for instance, such as economic opportunity, the opportunity to set up your own business, the opportunity to work within the formal economy as opposed to the informal. I'm talking about things like political opportunity, where anybody can become a leader of consequence in their local areas or on the national platform for that matter. I'm talking about social opportunities, I'm talking about educational opportunities, I'm talking about things like health, access to health. These are the things that make a nation function properly when people have access to these opportunities to do things for themselves. Mature economies and countries give their citizens these particular opportunities to a greater or lesser extent. This is true if you look at Europe, and it's true as well if you look at North America, and even for that matter, the economies of Southeast Asia. In developing countries, by contrast, in particular here in Africa, those opportunities are subsumed and they are made less relevant by the disparity in access to those opportunities. So only a very small group of people have the opportunities to access the economy fully. Only a very few people have the opportunity to access education and health in any meaningful way. And that disparity is what, in my view, distinguishes or makes a difference between what we have here in Africa as opposed to what happens in more mature developed countries. I'm addressing these things because the Hustler Nation has been set up under the guidance of our Deputy President with the express aim of doing two things with regards to opportunity. And the first amongst these is expanding opportunity away from the so-called dynasties, the people who hitherto have kept opportunity as their sole preserve. So, for instance, the founding fathers' family, the families of the second president of this country are very, very privileged, and they have access to a lot of opportunities which are not given to other Kenyans in equal measure. Those are what we are terming as dynasties, and they are preventing other people from accessing these opportunities. Now, I am of the view that without fundamental addressing of those particular discrepancies, the country cannot move forward. The second thing about the Hustler Nation is the leveling of opportunity upwards. I mean that we need to get away from the idea that the state has to do everything, or in fact that the state has to do most things for the citizen. I'm a firm believer that as an adult, I should be given the opportunity to do things for myself. I should not have to rely on the state as a means for achieving what I want to do with my own personal life and that of my family. And where the state becomes overmighty and overbearing, it diminishes my adulthood and that of my co-citizens. And that is not good for the country at large. We cannot be supplicants in our own country waiting for handouts from the government. That would be wrong. And I think it is part of the problem that we've had to endure since independence back in 1963. The mentality of Serikali Saidia, that is wrong, and it should not be allowed to continue. We should be allowed as adults, citizens, to do things for ourselves. And that requires that we have the opportunities to do these things. If Africa and Kenya, for that matter, are to become the countries that they should become, then opportunity as envisaged by the hustler movement is the way to encourage people to do things for themselves. Hey, I've just come in from, how long was it? I think it was about 8 kilometers of a walk. Whilst I was out, it's a hot day, a few thoughts came to me which I wanted to talk to you about today, because walking gives us lessons about the way we are governed. As I was walking, it occurred to me that successful walkers, people who manage to become great walkers or athletes, marathon runners, have a particular process that they go through as they are walking or running or training. And part of that is they have 3 qualities which I think are important to an athlete, but funnily enough, are also important to a government. Now, what are those 3 qualities? Well, the first one I think is vision. And what do I mean by vision? Well, as I was walking, it occurred to me that when I'm walking, or when any person who is in training or walking competitively or running for that matter, if you focus on just your next step as you are walking, you fail to see the bigger vision of where you are going and what it is that you are trying to achieve. In other words, if you cannot see into the future and have a vision about what it is that you want to do, how you want to do it, and where you want to go, it becomes very difficult to get there, because if you don't know where you're going, anywhere will do. It makes sense, right? So vision is about when you're walking or when you're running, to think of something a little bit further away than your next step, to look into the future and to see where it is that you are going and what it will be like when you actually get there. The second quality that came to me as I was doing this is one needs to have purpose. Now, I set myself a goal at the beginning of 2021 to achieve a half marathon and to climb several steep hills in Kenya this year. Now that means that I am going to have to put in training and effort in order to achieve what it is I set out to do at the beginning of the year. That requires that I know the purpose of what I am doing when I'm doing it, because I tell you, this morning it was difficult coming out of this door to go out there. My body was aching because I had a similar walk on Sunday, and today is Tuesday. My body was aching and it was difficult to motivate myself to get out. But then I thought about the purpose of why I am doing what I am trying to do. And that purpose is, one, to get fit, but secondly, and also importantly, is because I've set myself certain goals that I want to achieve this year. That purpose gave me the drive to get out the door and to go for my walk. And funnily enough, as my body loosened up, it became enjoyable, and I'm really glad now that I've come back that I did it. In the same way, governments need to have a purpose. What are they in place to do? What is a government doing in its role as a governance tool? What is its purpose in life? It cannot be that it is just an implementation to oppress the citizenry. It must be for something greater than that. Now, in fact, actually, it could be for oppression, a tool for oppression. Many governments have been tools of oppression. But I don't think that's the right thing. But a government that has that as its purpose has a purpose. So The question is, what is it in power to do? The third quality that I think a worker or an athlete needs to have in order to achieve their goals is energy. Energy is what gets somebody up and out when purpose and vision dim, when they fade, as they occasionally do. You might have a vision and you might have a good purpose, but sometimes if you don't have the physical energy, no amount of vision or purpose will get you out the door. You need energy in order to get out to achieve your purpose and your vision. Those three qualities, vision, purpose, and energy, are critical to an athlete, but they are also critical to a government. A government that does not have vision, purpose, or energy will not govern well and will be a hindrance, an obstacle, rather than a help to the citizens in achieving their ambitions and the country in becoming a better place for those citizens to live and work in. In my experience, and for the last few years since Uhuru's government came into being, there seems to me to be a lack of those three qualities. There was expressed some sort of a vision, a sort of a purpose, and some sort of energy at the outset. But increasingly, and particularly after the second term started in 2017, those qualities seems to have faded and they seem to have become less important to the government. And for that reason, we seem to be in limbo because the government doesn't seem to know, A, where it's going, the vision, why it's going there, the purpose, and it doesn't have the energy to take us there. Anyway, right now, I feel like I need a shower. So until next time, I'll be seeing you. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about something that struck me as being very unusual and symptomatic of the kind of problems that we have with our leadership in Kenya. This actually troubled me greatly because when a president can stand in front of the public and confess that there are things that are going wrong that he knows about, and yet there is no action taken on those things, then we have a big problem in our governance. This morning, our President Uhuru was at a radio station. He was addressing certain issues that are going on in the country, and amongst those things is the Building Bridges initiative, what I call rubbish. The problem with rubbish, as far as I can tell, is that it addresses things which are not necessary at this moment in the country's life. But more than that, there's also a problem in the sense that it costs money. Money that this country does not have. The country is broke. The Treasury has said as much, and we are in a situation where we are now going to our lenders and asking them for debt deferment. That says to me that we have a big problem that is not being addressed by the leaders, because if they were addressing it, we would not be doing things that are unnecessary, such as rubbish. Now, anyway, what happened was he came on to the radio station and he said to the public that as far as he's concerned, we can afford this because, get this, 2 billion shillings is being stolen each and every day in this country. 2 billion each and every day. Now, if you do the math, that is 2 billion times 365, which gives you 730 billion shillings being stolen every year. If you multiply that by the length of his term, which is 10 years, that is 7.3 trillion shillings, which will have gone missing during his tenure. 7.3 trillion shillings. Now, the government has actually borrowed 7 trillion shillings in his administration's time. So, what are we saying here? 7 trillion has been borrowed, leading to a situation where the country is broke. And of that, all of it is being stolen by people that he readily admits he knows about. And yet, nothing is being done. Now, this is, for me, a tremendous failure of leadership, a tremendous failure of of his administration to take control of what is going on in this country. When we woke up thrice to go and vote for him, it was on the understanding that he would tackle corruption. That was it. But has he done so? Clearly not. And this must be a problem for every citizen, every taxpayer, and for every parent who has children and grandchildren who are going to be paying for those debts that have been stolen by people that he is aware of, for whom there has been no consequence. That is the problem.